The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning to you. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
And it was another deadly night in town as a woman was shot and killed in Northeast Bakersfield. The shooting happened on River Boulevard in Water Street just before 7:30 last night. Sheriff's officials say a woman was shot and taken to the hospital, but she died. Deputies arrested 25-year-old Erica Gonzalez and 20-year-old Joseph Baker for the killing. Investigators say they also found 2 guns.
In your 17 Court Watch, a verdict was reached yesterday in the case of a Bakersfield man accused of killing his daughter-in-law for allegedly dishonoring him and his family. A jury found 67-year-old Jagjit Singh guilty of first-degree murder. Singh admitted to shooting and killing Sumandeep Kaur Kunar after she admitted to having an extramarital affair and threatened to leave the family. Singh's defense attorney, David Torres, asked the jury to find his client guilty of voluntary manslaughter, arguing the shooting was not premeditated, but rather occurred in the heat of the moment. Prosecutor Kara Thompson argued Singh committed first-degree murder, shooting an unarmed woman 3 times because he disagreed with her. Singh faces 25 years to life in prison, but the jury will return to court today to deliberate on factors that could possibly lead to a harsher sentence.
Now to a bizarre scene in downtown Bakersfield after a man was on top of a building swinging a machete for several hours. 17's Moses Small has more.
Bakersfield police were called to the Mercy Plaza Pharmacy on I Street just before 8:30 Wednesday morning.
The subject now has 2 large rocks in his hands.
Our subject appears to have a sheath for a machete.
Workers at the pharmacy say officers told them to leave the building.
Came into work around 8:40 and there was a cop walking around in the front, and I asked him if he needed the keys to get into the back. He said no, but there was somebody on the roof throwing rocks.
You can see a man identified as 44-year-old Raymond Valenzuela swinging a machete and first responders flying a drone nearby. Valenzuela grabs what appears to be a power cable and tries to swat down the drone. As mental health experts and crisis negotiators try to talk to him, Jaime Sotelo says it's not the first time someone has gone on top of the building.
Yeah, it's scary, but there's a lot of police officers here. We've kicked off multiple people off the roof before.
He has made threats to harm others as well as himself.
Our roof camera shows the moment Valenzuela steps down to grab an item on the roof before police follow him and appear to throw a smoke grenade. He was taken into custody just before 12:30 and no one was hurt. Kern Behavioral Health says clinicians with its mobile evaluation team, also called MET, helped police at the scene.
This is the population that we work with on a daily basis, and so there's just a different level of engagement that comes with that.
Police say they don't know why Valenzuela climbed onto the roof, but he could suffer from mental health issues or a drug problem.
We really want to work to separate criminal behavior from mental health issues. There are a lot of people who are suffering, and it leads them to make really poor choices. The vast majority of people suffering from mental health issues don't end up engaging in criminal activity.
Moses Small, 17 News.
Valenzuela faces charges of violating parole, illegal drug use, and felony resisting arrest. If you or a loved one is suffering from a mental health crisis, you're asked to call Kern Behavioral Health Crisis Hotline at 1-800-991-5272.
Your time now is 5:06, and in your Crime Watch, a convicted sex offender has been arrested in connection with the sexual assault of a woman who was dragged into a secluded area Monday night while walking along Ming Avenue. Police say 58-year-old Sergio Venegas was arrested yesterday on suspicion of assaulting a woman at knife point on Ming Avenue between Stein and New Stein Roads. The woman told police she was walking alone when the man approached. Property belonging to the victim was found on Venegas, according to police. Police said Venegas had been on parole on charges of assault with a deadly weapon and sexual assault.
More fallout this morning from that unprecedented leak from deep inside the U.S. Supreme Court as justices appear poised to reverse Roe v. Wade. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are making political hay from that revelation, and that includes Governor Gavin Newsom. Mr. Newsom's latest ad for re-election, reprimanding Republican gubernatorial candidate and state senator Brian Dahle.
Dahle wants to roll back abortion rights, punishing women and doctors.
But Dahle says it is a diversion from California's most pressing issues, including the high cost of living.
We have the highest taxes and the highest poverty rate in the nation. He has to divert. That's all he does is divert because his policies have failed. Look, the Supreme Court is going to do what it's going to do. Obviously, it won't change any law in California. There's been talk about some legislation coming through here at the Capitol. We'll see what that does.
Dahle is referring to the nearly dozen reproductive health-related bills lawmakers are considering this year, including a new proposed amendment to the state constitution to include abortion protections. At a pro-choice event in Los Angeles, Governor Newsom propped up the push alongside Planned Parenthood and supporters yesterday. Dahle confirms he is pro-life. The primary election takes place June 7th.
From our 17 News follow-up file, 17 News has learned the cause of death for a man whose body was pulled from a 200-foot deep water well in southwest Bakersfield back in March. The Kern County Coroner's Office says 26-year-old Jerome Christian died of mechanical asphyxia, which involves some physical force or physical abnormality that interferes with delivery of oxygen to the brain. The coroner's office says the manner of death, however, was undetermined. Christian's body was found March 7th inside the city water well on Demarant Avenue near New Stein Road. Christian's family says Jerome was laid to rest on Saturday.
It was Missing or Murdered Indigenous Peoples Awareness Day yesterday, and Native American advocates are calling for action. They gathered on the steps of the Capitol. There, tribal leaders, law enforcement, and state officials discussed the disproportionate rates of violence against Native Americans and the lack of coverage. Attorney General Rob Bonta says this kind of attention for Indigenous people has been a long time coming. Bonta says officers are working on guidelines, training, and technical assistance. Plus, $5 million is being invested to help end violence against Native Americans.
Congressman David Valadao is leading a group of 9 other Republican representatives from California, including Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy, in calling on Governor Gavin Newsom and the state legislature to suspend the state's gas tax. The tax is set to increase 3 cents per gallon in July as part of an annual inflation adjustment. Governor Newsom proposed a pause on that hike when he laid out his budget proposal in January, but lawmakers missed the deadline this past Sunday to pass that into law. Newsom and Democrats have also proposed sending rebates directly to Californians, but nothing's come from that either.
Now to the latest on the COVID-19 pandemic in the U.S. yesterday. Surpassed 1 million COVID-19 deaths, a once unthinkable scale of loss even for the country with the world's highest recorded death toll from the virus. The grim milestone was reached at a stunning speed, just 27 months after the country confirmed its first case of the virus. While deaths from COVID-19 have slowed in recent weeks, about 360 people are still dying every day. Figures show the U.S. death toll in the world's highest total by a significant margin. And according to the CDC, most of those deaths, more than 80% between April and December 2021, were unvaccinated. World Health Organization says that nearly 15 million people have died of COVID-19 or because of its effect on health services.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken has tested positive for COVID-19. Blinken, who's fully vaccinated and boosted, is only experiencing mild symptoms. He's expected to follow CDC guidelines and quarantine at home. Blinken and his wife were present at the White House Correspondents Association dinner in Washington Saturday night, along with 2,600 other people. Prior to testing positive through a PCR test, Blinken was scheduled to speak at the Kuwait Embassy in Washington for a refugee event.
And the COVID outbreak is not over. There are no new mask mandates, but the CDC is urging people to voluntarily mask up in public. The U.S. is averaging about 69,000 cases daily. That number more than doubling in the past month. But hospitalizations and deaths remain at near record lows. And some doctors say we can avoid another surge if people keep up with their booster shots.
Newly released documents show the CDC tracked millions of phones to determine whether Americans followed COVID lockdown orders. According to reports, the CDC purchased phone data from the data broker called SafeGraph for more than $400,000. for access to 1 year worth of data. Stay-at-home orders, visits to pharmacies, and the effectiveness of COVID policies in the Navajo Nation were among the activities the CDC monitored. The CDC's not commented on the report.
5:37 is our time now. Supply chain issues and a February recall have caused a nationwide baby formula shortage. And one local mother has heard the cries and wants to help. 17's Chris Burton joins us in studio this morning with more. Good morning, Chris.
Alex, good morning. Cheyenne Wheeler says she was blessed with extra milk, and she's hoping her oversupply might be able to help other moms in need. Amid a nationwide formula shortage, desperate calls for help feeding babies. Calls Cheyenne Wheeler wants to answer.
I have this supply in my fridge and or my freezer, and decided, if it's needed, I'm not needing it, I can go ahead and donate it to whoever needs it.
The local mother of two has more breast milk than she needs to feed her 2-month-old daughter, Riley. More than 400 ounces sit in Wheeler's freezer, and she's already begun donating.
She made a post on there that she has a baby that was born premature that she's fostering.
Through a milk donation Facebook group, Wheeler met a Fresno foster mom in need of milk. She's set to donate several bags within the next week. The Fresno mom declined an interview, citing an open Child Protective Services case, but she says she's immensely grateful to Wheeler for giving her foster daughter a better start. And now Wheeler wants to do more.
If it's needed and there's a baby that's out there hungry that needs it, then I'm more than willing to do it.
She's seen friends sharing posts on social media, trying to track down formula amid supply chain issues and recalls. She began posting herself, offering her milk supply to anyone that needs it.
If a mom needs enough just to get her through a couple days until she can find the formula brand she needs or whatever it is, I have it.
As of this week, Wheeler hadn't set up any further donations, but she's keeping her eyes and social media inboxes open. Well, she says the best way to ask her about donations is to reach out to her through Facebook, specifically through the Facebook group that she mentioned, Human Milk for Human Babies.
Okay. It's got to be so stressful.
I was going to say, it's got to be stressful for families.
Yeah. I'm sure it is. And, anything that families can do to take that burden off of another, is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, you're so exhausted in the days with an early baby, a new baby, and to then have to go from store to store looking for formula if you can't find it. It's incredible to see community members stepping up to help each other.
Yeah, Cheyenne mentioned that she's seen people asking folks from out of state to mail formula here. So it is just stark.
It just shows you that this is not just it has not been just a temporary issue. I mean, this is really plaguing a lot of new families out there.
Yeah,
and those
absolutely.
With newborns.
All right, Chris, thanks so much.
Yeah.
5:39 is our time now. The Wisconsin Humane Society is reminding residents that it will never turn away an animal in need after a dog was found tied to a fire hydrant in Green Bay. A local resident said the dog had a note with her explaining that the owners could not take care of her anymore. The note also mentioned that the dog's name was Baby Girl. In addition to the note, a backpack containing food, treats, and toys was left with the dog. Baby Girl was taken to Green Bay's Humane Society and is still in the care of staff. Receiving lots of TLC, she is currently on stray hold, and the Humane Society is tracking down any leads on who the owners are. Oh,
so sad.
Breaks my
heart.
that
picture.
Oh, that is just heart-wrenching. But you know, every time we do a story like this, when it goes viral like this, that dog.
So many people are going to be in line.
Have a list. There will be a wait list of someone trying to pick her up.
And just remember, it's not just that dog in need. There are thousands of dogs at shelters that need a new home.
Our local shelters are just, they're packed.
They are.
They are packed with dogs.
I know.
So consider that.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.